Hey everyone, my name is the Theme Park Evangelist. Well, guess what, everybody? It's time for another week of how to stay faithful and focused on God during difficult times. And because it's the beginning of a brand new week, let's just go ahead and just kind of go over what's been kind of going on with my life, which really don't have much to report, and just kind of talking about the channel. So, first of all, I had to work on a Monday yesterday, which was kind of weird. I mean, with this hotel job, not really, because I did agree to work on Mondays. Now, when I worked at the airport, it was very weird when I worked on Mondays because I always asked for them off, but once in a while I would volunteer to come in. But needless to say, I did DoorDash yesterday here in Grand County or in Dry Ridge, and it was deader than dead. And I was like, wow. Like, tomorrow better be better because Florence is where I make all the money. I mean, I'm not even joking. Every time I'm just like scooping in that money, I'm like, I really feel like I'm earning my platinum status out there as a DoorDash driver, let alone a platinum driver, platinum dasher, whatever you want to call me. So, yeah, needless to say, I just pretty much just chilled out in the area. Then I left for work. I got there early. I worked the hotel by myself again, which was kind of nice. And then I left about 11 o'clock last night. And I didn't even really get anything until Dry Ridge, but I didn't see it on time. So, I mean, I really want to make sure I retain my platinum status. So I got to Florence, and I immediately accepted a stacked order for canes, Raising Canes for short. And I'll tell you guys right now, doing Raising Canes at night, especially when it's two identical orders or similar orders, is not fun because Raising Canes, they decide, well, we're not going to pay attention to you once, especially as a DoorDasher. Once you get your food, they're like, okay, you're good. And that's pretty much all there is to it. And the other annoying part about going into Raising Canes is you're not allowed to use your Raising Canes card to earn yourself points whenever you go in. And you know how many times I've gone into Raising Canes over the past 5 months as a dasher? At least 25 times. That's 25 swipes I could have gotten. But no, I'm not allowed to go into Raising Canes and use my card just because I'm paying for somebody else. I mean, DoorDash is sending me the money, and then I just bill it to their card, their company card. But still, it's just like so stupid. I mean, you would think that that'd be one thing they would allow, and then apparently I'm not allowed to even go into Walgreens and even use my rewards points or my dad's or my future father-in-law's. Like, maybe once a month I might be able to get away with it as long as they don't catch on, but nothing more than that. And then they might go, if you keep this up, we're going to deactivate your account because apparently the customer, um, you know, needs to come into the store to use their rewards points. Like, I don't really know the whole story, but it's one of those things. So there are definitely some frustrations to being a dasher, but needless to say, um, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and then I had to come back out to Florence this morning, and I had to take Katie to her new job. So she's now an assistant manager at FYE at the Florence Mall. So very exciting, and this is her first salary paid job. So I'm like, whoa, and went over to the Cary Hyundai dealership and found out that my SUV is finally getting a engine replacement. So praise God for that. So I'm very, very, very thankful that I'm getting somewhere with that car. And then I did some DoorDash today. I took a nap at my parents' place, and I managed to spend Katie's 30 with her at the mall food court, so that was kind of nice. And of course, I had to go back to CC's by myself, and yes, I did not enjoy it as much as Pizza Inn back on Sunday, but that was the last time I went to Pizza Inn. But I was starving and I needed something to eat, so as I'll be honest with you guys, even though a lot of people are probably staring at me like, is that guy not eating forever? Because I was like, more or less. And, I hate to say that, but to tell you guys the truth, the last time I had eaten anything was at 7:30 last night. 7:30 in the evening. And I didn't even eat anything until 4 o'clock this evening. So I've been almost 24 hours since I ate last. And you might ask me, well, why didn't you eat anything? Because I know one trip to CC's will stuff me to the brim. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was probably a little nibbly afterwards, and that's why I stopped and had ice cream, but I figured that was, my fill for the day. So I'm good. So as far as YouTube is concerned, I did do another vlog in Frankfort, Kentucky. This time I decided to revisit Cove Springs Park in Frankfort, so that was kind of a neat experience. It was cool to show that again. Also, Winter Jam is going on, and Lord willing, come March, when they come to Cincinnati, I will be able to show you guys the March version of Winter Jam 2025 when I go with my brother, because the plan is to go with my brother again this year like I did last year. But this time they're coming to Cincinnati and not Northern Kentucky University, or NKU for short. Also, I might have mentioned this last week, but Publix is opening in Frankfort. Sorry, not Frankfurt. I got Frankfurt on the brain. Look, Publix is opening in Lexington, Kentucky on March 5th. So the current plan, if everything works out, is to visit that Publix, maybe not on opening day, but right around that time frame, and go see what the Publix looks like, and maybe go take a visit out to the horse park and the Fayette Mall. So just be on the lookout for some Lexington vlogs here in the near future. Also, just a friendly reminder, Publix is opening in Walton, Kentucky around the same time frame, and I have applied to that one. I have been possibly selected to be part of that opening team, so be on the lookout to see what that store looks like in the near future. Got to be careful of that one, as I mentioned last week, because of the fact that the job you work at is the one you really don't want to necessarily vlog at either. So it's like, And then a month from today, because I know TJ will be so mad if I don't say this, is his 31st birthday. So make sure that you wish TJ, aka the country music lover of Polk County, a happy birthday. And theme park news, Saturday officially begins. Saturday or Sunday? No, Saturday. Saturday officially begins Mardi Gras at Universal Orlando Resort. So if you are down in Central Florida, this starting this weekend, make sure you stop by Universal Orlando to go check out Mardi Gras this year. They got a very interesting selection or lineup for concerts this year. There was only one band I really wanted to see, and that was Cool in the Gang. Also, in theme park news, speaking of Universal, they've officially opened their very first hotel for Epic Universe called the Stella Nova. So make sure you go check that out as well. The Tim Tracker has already stayed there, supposedly, and Universal has made a lot of big announcements as far as like what's going to be happening at their parks this year. So lots to look forward to Universal this year, more so than Disney actually, which is weird. So yeah, I'm really excited. Alright, let's go ahead and get into it. Going to be talking to you guys today, as you probably saw on the topic, or the title, I should say, above. Going to be talking about how to stay faithful and focused on God while switching churches. So, not that I'm switching churches anytime soon, but I'm going to go back and share some of my own personal experiences, not my parents, but my own personal experiences on how to stay faithful and focus on God even while you're switching churches. Because let's face it, as Christians, we always want to find that one church, and you'll probably hear this a lot if you are a regular church attender. The one thing I've heard so much about in churches growing up my whole life is you need to find that one church. You just need to stay plugged in. And I still have Hebron Baptist Church, so to speak, knocking on my door, reminding me I have a membership with them and I need to make up my mind whether I'm going to attend Grace Fellowship Church, which is on my t-shirt. And I like to wear the shirt a lot because this is one of my favorite songs that they actually wrote themselves. And it's called Star of Hallelujah. And then, or just going back to Hebron Baptist, they keep basically saying, like, I can't keep, going back and forth between the two, when technically I'm not. I'm regularly attending Grace Fellowship Church every single week, and then once a year, maybe a few times a year, I will go back to Hebron Baptist Church for special events such as Christmas Eve, because let's face it, Hebron Baptist Church does their Christmas Eve service on Christmas Eve, and then my church, Grace Fellowship Church, does their Christmas Eve service the day before. And normally I cannot get Christmas Eve off for the life of me. I mean, the day before Christmas Eve off for the life of me. Versus Christmas Eve, a little easier to come by, especially with Publix, which thankfully they close at 7 o'clock. I mean, I can't guarantee even this year I'm going to be off on time for even my own church's Christmas Eve service, which also is at 7 o'clock as well. I guess they figured, why make everybody come out on Christmas Eve when they should be at home, spending time with family. But for me, it's always been a tradition. And in some ways, I kind of like it because this way I get to go do my thing at my church and then go to my parents' church. And me, my parents, my brother are all together on Christmas Eve celebrating Christmas Eve together. And then we go back to their place together and we'll go and, celebrate Christmas Eve in however way we want to go about doing it. Now this year, let me back up. I don't even know why I was even talking about, being worried about church. Like, as far as I know, we're not even going to be home for Christmas Eve this year, or Christmas let alone, because we got a trip coming up to Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg this year, so I may not even have anything to worry about. But it's always good to think ahead. Anyway, if you ever, by the way, for any new subscribers, if you're ever wondering what that soft sound is in the background, if you hear it, it's my portable heater. I got on Amazon for about $20 with my future mother-in-law's gift card. And it's helped out immensely. 50 watts of power versus 10,000 watts of power. Yeah, I think night and day difference. Plus, this thing warms up my room in hours. I mean, yes, it's just my room, but still, this thing can really make a difference. Like, it'll be 70 degrees in here, and I'll go out in the rest of the apartment, I'm like, it is freezing. But anyway, so, enough of the rambling. So, I wanted to share with you guys some personal experiences I've had with switching churches. So, I used to attend this church called Surf Church. It was spelled S-U-R-V. I'm just going to say the pastor's name, first name. I'm not going to say anything else. His name was James, and that's as far as I'm going to say that, or with that. Super sweet guy. he's still young in my mind. In fact, his daughter is still very young, and her husband is young as well, and they just had their first child. So I mean, let's face it, they're young, and the church turns 10 years old. Actually, just turned 10 years old back in 2019. But we started the church when we were all very young. So actually, in 2029, it turns 20 years old. But we were all originally attending a church called Calvary Baptist in Winter Haven, Florida, off of a road called Overlook Drive. And we were all under the leadership of a guy named Tim. And let's just say he no longer works there for biblical reasons, and that's as far as we're going to go with that. And there was this guy named James that was teaching Sunday school there at the time, and my parents found out about him, and he was getting his pastoral degree at some biblical school at the time. I don't remember what it was called again. And I remember attending his graduation ceremony because, let's face it, he was very important to my parents, and I wanted to be there to support him because I knew it was important to my parents. And I liked him too, and I always have. So, he made the announcement that he really wanted to start up a launch church, which is essentially a church that starts up under the leadership of a bigger church with the church's permission and leadership and financial support near the beginning, and just kind of going off on their own direction. And the church was fully supportive of it. Eventually, over time, I started seeing the church, the bigger churches, or the mother churches, financial and leadership, financial support and leadership just kind of dwindling over time. But we didn't stop being right by their side. Just because they kind of gave up on us doesn't mean we're going to give up on them, if that makes any sense. And we originally started meeting in the mother church's sanctuary, and eventually we got enough money to rent out a space. This was back when I was attending there, for those of you who do not know what I'm talking about. At the school my mom was teaching at the time in Winter Haven, Florida, called Winter Haven Christian. And, we would meet there on Sundays, and we just had to make sure everything was cleaned up and put away before school resumed the very next day. If there was school, even if there wasn't school, we still had everything cleaned up and put away. Summer, a lot easier because they weren't meeting. But during the school year, a different story. And, it was a lot of work, don't get me wrong. And you know what, it was worth it. But there was some issues I had with the church. Like, James came up with this idea of a covenant. And I always found that very troubling. And, I read over the covenant the very first time, and I didn't think much of it. And I started realizing this wasn't going to work. He was asking a lot. And let me just be very straightforward with you guys. God requires a lot too. But, there's a difference between God requiring a lot and man requiring a lot. And that's when you have to, really think about it. There are going to be times when you're going to be sitting there underneath the pulpit of so and such and such pastor, and you're going to be hearing them requiring this, 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 and this. But at the end of the day, who do you really listen to? And that's God, ultimately. The one that's, up there, the one that created you, the one that created me, the one that created everybody and everything. That's the one who you really answer to, the one that really judges you. And I mean, this pastor, he was, requiring weekly church attendance. And I would see all these people that would go up and they would sign this covenant, and then half of them wouldn't even attend every single week. And I was like, how can you require that and then not enforce it? But then you would do it with me, and that's not fair. Excuse me. And then his excuse was, well, you want to be a pastor. It's like, that doesn't make me any different than anybody else. Just because that's what I seek doesn't mean that you should be that much harder on me. And just because asked you to be my mentor doesn't mean you're my one and only mentor. And then the other thing that really troubled me at the time was the fact that I was a teenager. I mean, he probably didn't stop and think about the fact that my mindset wasn't completely there. And yes, over time, my mindset did change. But needless to say, we just did not think alike. And I remember this one time we used to do this thing called get together Sunday every Sunday. I mean, they still do it, but when I was attending the church, I remember I was very fond of get together Sunday. It was time to eat and talk and really get to know everybody. It wasn't just sitting there listening to the pastor preach. It was also coming in, and I would get to sit there with him and just share what was on my mind. And my other favorite Sunday was the week after, because I would really get just have some one-on-one time with him, and it was excellent. It was amazing, and I loved it. I mean, yes, the free meal was great, but what really pushed me to keep doing it was the fact that I got to have one-on-one time with him, and that's what I really enjoyed. But anyway, there was this one third Sunday, and I didn't really have anybody else back then. And I was very close with the pastor's wife, and I was sharing with her. I think it was maybe the day before. It was a day I was on my way to work. I was on my way to work, and I was just driving along, and I might have told the story differently, but here's the real story, and that's what I'm sharing with you. I mean, I merged over, and I actually cut a guy off, but at the time I didn't think I felt bad, but when I retold it later on, here's where everything went wrong. When I thought about it later, I made it sound like I did it intentionally, because I was in a good mood. I was being immature at the time. I was being silly, and I thought it was funny that I did it at the time. And when I didn't, because let me stop for a second. As teenagers, isn't it normal to have those mixed emotions? Isn't it normal to not think things through logically? And that's exactly where I was. So, I mean, was I very surprised at the time when I got told off for it? So I started, deciding, is it really even worth staying here anymore? And, I'll be honest with you guys, I was already hanging out with TJ and Kay a lot. Two people I've known since very long time ago. TJ and I have known each other for 10 years as of December, and Kay and I have known each other for 13 years as of September. Sorry, TJ and I 10 years as of December, Kay and I 13 years as of September. I want to make sure I get my months right. So, I mean, I was already having a lot of thoughts about whether I should stay around or not. And, I may not have known TJ at the time because this might have been before him. So, I started, thinking to myself, well, maybe this church isn't working out for me. So I started searching around for different churches. But I wanted to make sure that I stayed faithful and focused on God, because at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure God was my number one priority. So I started attending this one church called Christ Church on the Move. It was a non-denominational church in Lake Wales, Florida. And, don't get me wrong, I thought it was really neat at the time. I would step in, and I Love the fact that they did these free donuts. I thought it was cool that they had free coffee. But I couldn't help but notice that they spent a little too much time um, prioritizing fellowship more than anything. And I couldn't help but notice one Wednesday night when I used to attend Wednesday night services there in high school that these two men would sit there while the pastor was preaching and just talk. Like, oh, we're here, but we're not here. It was basically what I was getting out of it. And I found that very offensive to God. And over time, I really started losing my taste in the church. It's like, yes, there was a lot of great things that church did. I loved some of the outings we did. We would all get together as one body at a various place in Lake Wales, and we would all sit together and talk. We did the Eagle Ridge Mall, we did Wendy's, you name it. I mean, we did some really nice things, but I just didn't really feel like my relationship with God was growing, so I decided to leave. I decided at one point, well, I went to a Methodist high school. What's the difference between a Methodist school and a Methodist church? There really was no difference. And I also chose that because at the time I had this crush on this girl named Laura. By the way, might look similar to Katie, definitely not nice like Katie. So I started going there, and I didn't get closer to Laura like I thought. And I loved going there, and I thought it was a really nice church. I found it very similar to going to high school, but I also really started disliking going there after a while because, if anything, it was affecting my work life considerably. And even though the church didn't want me to leave, I couldn't really keep working at Publix at the time because of the fact that it was making a coworker, my coworker Laura, very uncomfortable around me because she felt like I was stalking her, even though it wasn't anything out of, rudeness or meanness or to be creepy or anything, but she didn't see it that way. I just wanted to get to know her better as a friend. She knew I had Asperger's, but she didn't care. She only cared about herself, I hate to say it. I know where she works, but truthfully, even if I did go in her job and she still recognized me, I probably wouldn't even say a word to her. I don't have a reason to. Would I forgive her? Absolutely, because that's what God wants. But I don't have a reason to talk to her ever again. And even if I try to convince her that I've changed, she wouldn't believe me. So she can keep living a life of lies for as long as I care, because at the end of the day, she's going to be judged by God just like I'm going to be judged by God. And another church I really wanted to share with you guys that I tried going to at one point for a very long time. So my roommate attends the Church of Christ, and it's really hard to describe what the Church of Christ believe. I'm still friends with the pastor and his wife and his family to this day of that church, the Winter Haven Church of Christ. However, though, they do not believe everything that a Baptist believes, let alone an evangelical free church or non-denominational. I mean, they're kind of their own cult, so to speak. So, but it was the first church I really fell in love with for a very long time. I probably went to that church until shortly after I started hanging out with TJ and really getting close. But that was around the same time frame that I started really going off the deep end, and I started doing the whole drinking thing, and that's when God pulled me aside and was like, David, the longer you keep trying to church hop, the more confused you're going to get. And right now you don't have any real guidance to help you, especially while you got TJ telling you one thing, you got your parents telling you another thing, you got the church telling you another thing, and the list just keeps going on. And I was just getting so confused. And I was like, who do I believe? And, let's, go back to the church thing, because that's what this whole YouTube video is about. How can you believe what the church is telling you when you keep changing churches? Especially when, the Church of Christ preaches this, the Baptist preaches this, the Catholic preaches this, the Methodist preach this, and it just keeps going on and on. And I mean, I had this one guy I worked with at Publix, and he was a Jehovah's Witness, and he and I had a 30-minute conversation one night, and he tried so hard to prove to me that there are only pre-selected many people that God has chosen to be allowed into heaven, and I ain't one of them. But he is. And it just was a very entertaining conversation to have. And then I had another conversation another day at McDonald's in Dundee, Florida, with another close friend, and I'm just going to tell you his first name, and that's it. His name is Josh, and he's still one of my closest friends to date. He is a Calvinist. My brother knows everything all about Calvinism. Please do not ask me what Calvinism is. That is a Jonathan question only. My brother has his bachelor's in U.S. history. He's trying to go for his master's. My brother is the history expert, not me. But, yeah, he and I had a good hour conversation all about Calvinism. My close friend Josh probably knows just as much about Calvinism as my brother does. And I was literally sitting there like this. I didn't know what to do because he got me. I mean, I'm very knowledgeable on the Bible. I'm a very strong believer on it. But when you know your subject and I don't, you kind of won. I didn't know how to convince him otherwise. And I even went and got help. Sure, my brother wasn't the history expert back then like he is now. And, I've talked to my brother about Calvinism, and he's had to help me a little bit. I mean, these days, if I approached a Calvinist and I need my brother's help, I definitely go to him. My brother has a lot more experience witnessing to people than I do, because my brother usually attends the University of Cincinnati, and apparently the University of Cincinnati has a wide range of different beliefs out there, and my brother has had multiple really interesting conversations with quite a few of them. So my brother definitely has gotten to be a really good witness. Plus, my brother has also been on 2 mission trips. He's been to Guatemala, and he's also been to London, England. So yeah, I would say my brother's way ahead of me. Versus, I have never been to World Changers, which apparently is a mission trip. I've never even done Community Changers, which is a community mission trip. And then I've never even been on a mission trip, period, in my life. But yet, I've gone down to Florida on theme park related trips way too many times. I think it's safe to say that my priorities are very backwards for somebody who, claims to be a strong believer in Christ, and I need to get my act together. My roommate is getting ready to go on a mission trip in April with his best friend Shalee, and they're going down to the Philippines this time. They just went to the Netherlands in November or October, which I don't remember. What was one of the two, and now they're getting ready to go to the Netherlands. I'm sorry, the Philippines. I'm tired. You have to forgive me. So, yeah, I mean, as much as I love these mission trip ideas, I'm just going to be straightforward with you guys. The number one reason, and I promise you, it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't care about God, because that's a lie. The number one reason why I've never done a mission trip in my life is because, like, let's just face it. That Central Florida trip I went to Central Florida last February. Let's back it up. How much do you think I actually spent? $500. That's it. $500. That's pennies compared to a mission trip. My parents helped my brother fund part of his mission trip, but I heard altogether that the London mission trip that my brother and my parents went on last year cost them over $10,000. That's literally how much it would cost an average person who would save up an entire lifetime to go to Disney World for the very first time. And for me, that was maybe, I don't know, 1,000th of the price. And believe it or not, that $500 was for my food, my beverages, my one eating time I ate out at Disney World, gas, nothing towards lodging whatsoever, and maybe a little bit of souvenirs. And that was pretty much about it. And I mean, I did eat out a little bit here and there, but that was literally all the $500 all together. And then, of course, I did have to pay for airfare, but yeah, that $500 might have also included the airfare as well. So I think it's safe to say that when it comes to budgeting for a trip, especially when it's something I just do for fun, that's what I do extremely well. When it comes to a mission trip, I'm like, ugh. I mean, I heard that my roommate's trip to the Philippines is going to cost several $1,000s. I mean, I just don't know how I'm ever going to come up with that kind of money ever in my life. I mean, my wedding alone is going to be extremely cheap compared to my close friend Danny, who apparently said that her wedding is going to be like, I don't know, 10 to 100 times more than my wedding. And, my wedding is an economy-based wedding. So, basically, the average couple spends as much as Danny's going to be spending for her wedding, aka the Ohio Jones. I'm not calling, Danny a big spender. I'm just saying that I'm just not really big about spending a lot of money, ever. I mean, this past Thursday, I made pennies from my job. And the only way I've been able to survive is from DoorDash. And of course, granted, the end of the month, I have all these bills. And I literally have less than. Actually, I literally spent every last penny today that I made. I made about $60 today. And every single penny went towards bills. Tolls from my trip back in November to Canada. Doctor bill. I did buy myself a $5 buffet at CC's. That was my one splurge for the day, plus this less than a dollar drink. 94 cents. That was it. And so altogether today, I spent on myself about $6. $6 lousy dollars is all I spent on myself today. Everything else went to freaking bills. And then I still managed to go in the hole. I did go and I did buy my dad a large blizzard, or my parents, I should say, a large blizzard that cost $7, but that had nothing to do with me. That was something I want to do for my parents out of the kindness of my heart, because of the fact that my dad and God, most importantly, are the reasons why my freaking car is getting fixed in the first place. That has nothing to do with me. So I wanted to show my dad some appreciation to helping me get the car fixed. So at the end of the day, my conclusion and moral of this entire vlog is the fact that, well, obviously, most importantly, we can't make any final decisions without God. I kind of made that obvious. Secondly, you can't keep switching churches without having some kind of clear direction from God on what to do next. You need to find one church and one church only. And I think that's the reason why my relationship with God is growing stronger. Why is that? Because God is speaking to me through this one church, Grace Fellowship Church in Florence, Kentucky only, and that's it. Yes, it's 3 campuses, but I'm only attending the Florence campus. And, I'm very thankful that I have this church. I am very thankful for the people that I know there. I'm very thankful for my community group. I'm very thankful for the pastors there. And, I'm very thankful that I have a woman I can attend that church with, too. But, you know what? At the end of the day, if I went back to church hopping, would I get as much out of God? No. Because, pastor over here would be saying this and this, but my pastor back over here would be saying this and this. And then, that makes that this is, all part of the conclusion. What do I believe? What do I not believe? That's why you need to find one church and one church only and just stick to it. Don't keep going from here, 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 and here and expecting God to tell you the same exact thing, because God's trying to tell you, but you're too busy listening to man, and God's basically going to stand off to the background and wait until you're done trying to figure it out. And once you're done figuring it out, then God will come back up and go, okay, you done now? You ready to listen? So, yeah, fun times. Oh, one last thing. This has nothing to do with the vlog. So, when I tried to vlog last week, I had to unplug the laptop in order to have the heater going. So I managed to talk Katie into buying me 2 power surge protectors for now, and I will pay her back for it as soon as I can. I did give her a full tank of gas, so I said that was at least something to tide her over for now. So that was part of the reason why I'm out of money right now. And I decided, well, I need one in here, so my laptop is plugged into it and my alarm clock is plugged into it. The other problem I've been having is my Xbox, which is up in the front of the apartment, apparently is getting older and has been causing a lot of surges. So I decided that the other surge protector needed to go up there, and I decided for my roommate's personal or electronics protection, I should go ahead and just plug them all into that surge protector so they're all at least safe in case of another surge, or especially a storm. I mean, let's face it, Northern Kentucky, even Dry Ridge, gets some really ferocious storms. So at least I know 100% that 75% of the electronics in this apartment are all protected by surge protectors now. So that's at least a good thing. Anyways, this has been my longest How to Stay Faithful and Focused on God During Difficult Times vlog yet. But just don't ever forget to stay faithful and focused on God. And, just remember the one main thing I was trying to point out from this entire vlog. You can't keep bouncing from church to church and expecting God to tell you the same thing, because he ain't going to. He's going to stay in the background and wait till you're done trying to figure it out. When you're done trying to figure it out, that's when God's going to come back. I'll see you guys in the next vlog. And always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great night. Peace out.